I live in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, just south of Park Slope. I'm between, on the north, Mama Tried, that's a bar, and Minnie's to the south. Roughly, those are my blocks, 10 block radius. The past year, roughly around the inauguration, I made a commitment. It's not, of course, a hunger strike, but it's sort of like a 420 strike. So I've been stoned since January 20th of 2025. So most of my time I spend sitting here listening to Supreme Court oral arguments, the Lawfare podcast, Joanne Freeman, Heather Cox Richardson, the Bulwark, FPRI, that's Foreign Policy Research Institute, Brookings Institution. What else do I listen to? I listen to a lot of Carnatic music and a lot of Arabic music from Yemen, oud. And I'm a full-time thinker. I am a man of leisure. We don't have very many of those. I guess there used to be such a thing. I have heard stories. Well, I guess I have read some accounts. There are some paradigmatic examples. I guess it's kind of mythological at this point, but Descartes supposedly stayed in bed most of the day, or at least into the afternoon. And he probably went out. I guess he lived in Amsterdam. Did he? Probably, or maybe it was Paris. I don't know. And so in that period, I guess, with the so-called men of leisure, Hume is another example. Hume's actually cooler than Descartes because he's like this bon vivant, and he also has extraordinary powers of self-discipline. Hume lived in the countryside in Paris when he was young. Maybe it was for 3 years. And he was firm with himself. He determined that his life's priority at that point was to become a famous writer. And I guess the main stuff that he wrote was the philosophy and the history. Everything Hume wrote is perfect. It doesn't get much better than David Hume as a thinker, man of leisure. So the political motivations of these individuals, I'm actually, no, I mean, not the motivations, I should not say that because, of course, their theory is full of political whatever, but as people, who were they in the society such that they could represent their views in whatever influential way? Now, I have a conception of the Germans that already very early they began institutionalizing and formalizing their thinkers. So the German classical period really is just a few hundred years ago. And we do have the common conception of the university professor really originating. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the story is that the whole notion of an academic philosophy professor only gets invented in Germany. So now these days you will notice, what role is there in culture for such people? There are none. Because whatever intellectual voices we have that sound off in the New York Review of Books or London Review of Books or wherever it is that you're supposed to hang out if you're fancy and impressive. All of these professors are thoroughly institutional representatives. They are on the payroll, and you are all some of my teachers. I mean, but you're not all my teachers, and maybe that partially accounts for why I am able to do this, and none of y'all are able to do what I'm doing. What do you think? Is it possible? The very idea that there could be an unaffiliated philosopher. Graham Priest is on record rather recently, 3 months ago, saying point blank, the West doesn't, or no, I think it was a comment about America, that America doesn't have public intellectuals the way that Europeans do, or Europe does. Well, certainly there are public intellectuals. Chomsky, I mean, doesn't get much more public than that. I don't know really what about Daniel Dennett? What about Neil deGrasse Tyson? What about Stephen Hawking? Even Robert Sapolsky? This is all showbiz stuff. I mean, Graham Priest, you yourself are the very public intellectual in the United States you claim doesn't exist. Now, I don't know what the tenure gets you. I don't know, who's got tenure and what kind of tenure it is. But to my mind, tenure not only gets you the license for parousia, it obliges you to parousia. Think about the continuous and the coextensive. Consider the continuity of your own life, dear professors, the continuity of your own life. And consider the famous examples from being and nothingness. You will have already guessed, of course, what I'm referring to. The girl on a date and the waiter. We have, on these examples, a picture of continuity and discontinuity between self, other, and world. Such that there can be construed a dyadic zone of exception at all times, such that there is an authenticity component which is shielded from the public performance component. I myself have eradicated the authenticity component. Or the public performance component. I've hopelessly blurred the distinction. But that's not an accident. You see, I was taught to think this way. What way? Continuously. I was taught to understand my own self by my very first teachers when I was an adolescent. I was taught to understand myself as the basis for empirical logic and first principles reasoning at all times, even when I'm sleeping. In the earlier decades, it meant that as a thinker, I was utterly inscrutable because it's very hard to thematize over nothing. But after 40 years, the essence of reason itself quite naturally bubbles up to the surface. So that it covers every single node in the plane. Nothing escapes the light of human reason. No secret, no obscurity, no hypocrisy, no inconsistency, no state of exception. Nothing escapes human reason. There is no remainder. Dear Zizek, there is no remainder. Dear Schelling, there is no remainder. Dear Derrida, there is no remainder. Alan Bass, there is no remainder. Jameson Webster, there is no remainder. Jared Russell, Jared Russell's dead. Talk about no remainder. Fuck me. Now are you starting to understand what's happening here?